Wes kind of threw out his back, and so that's why I'm here tonight. And so they just are in the process of purchasing a house, him and Allison. And so at 9 a.m. on Friday, if you are at all available, they're looking for help. Normally, Wes can lift the whole church by himself, but without a back, it's a little more challenging. And so we're looking for your help. So if you have muscles and or a face, we need your help on Friday at 9 a.m. And so that's we're going to meet right here at Harvestime, and then we'll hop on over and load them up, get them ready, and move them on out to, well, they're not moving too far, just on the north side of town. So they're staying here, so they're ours. So let's pray. I need all the prayer I can get tonight. And so, Jesus, thank you so much for this evening. Would you do something incredible? Would you, Lord, would you touch hearts in your wonderful name? Amen. Amen. So I guess we're going to start off with a simple question. In the last 3 months, and I want you to kind of think about this, in the last 3 months, what's maybe the very best thing that happened to you in the last 3 months? And so if you want to, you can tell the person to your right or to your left. You know, I'm a youth pastor, so I'm used to people talking in my message anyway, so I'm just like preemptively just going there. So I guess what is the very best thing that happened to you in the last 3 months? It could be something, or maybe something good that happened to you in the last 3 months, Yesterday, I was with Wes, and we went and he bought Burger King for me. It was one of those good moments, and you're like, it's never a bad day to get some free Burger King. Or there's you go and there's a $1 Culver's custard, that's a good day. And one thing that happens usually when you have those moments is you kind of go and when you had that moment, raise your hand, did you tell anybody about what happened, when something good happened to you? Raise your hand with that, when that good thing happened to you, did you tell somebody? Right? Yeah, exactly. Good job, right? When something good happens, we tell it. And so whether it's you found a good deal on a pair of jeans at Old Navy or Target, or whether you got some really good deal on food, I don't know why, but usually the good things that happen to me are food. I love it. Right? I want you to know, the first time I ate at Milwaukee Burger, I ordered cheese curds, and I thought, oh, these would be normal cheese curds. No, they're bean bags, and you get to shove this giant thing of cheese, and I'm you just tell everyone about the good news. They have beanbag sized cheese curds at Milwaukee Burger. You're gonna share all this good news, and I think part of that is that God Himself loves sharing good news, and since we're created in His image, there's something about we just love to share. When something great happens, we're yeah, this is how it happened. But there's a rub that can happen as well, because, and I left my Bible over here, so sorry, camera person, you're gonna have to follow me all the way over here. Oh, and if you're watching online, welcome. This isn't gonna happen where I get asked to come back anymore. What? Oh, there's a note. You're right. See, this is why we don't have a lot of these either. There's a Chevy gray vehicle, also known as a car, with its lights on, and its license plate number is AEN 2635. AEN license plate 2635. Is it a Wisconsin plate? Yes, it makes sense. We're in Wisconsin. So if that's your vehicle, I just read your license plate in front of live stream. I'm sorry about that. But it's a 2-door coupe, and we've got your DNA as well. Yeah, so if that's yours, just know that your lights are on, and we appreciate you lighting up our parking lot, but you might not be able to start your car later. So, woo, right? But where I was going with that is, we love sharing good news, right? But the greatest good news of all time is the gospel, which literally means the good news. Okay, so the gospel literally means good news. And the thought that I kind of have is, I have no problem telling you about the deal that I got on these Goodfellow jeans. Like, they were like $14, which is amazing for jeans. But yet, I struggle sometimes being able to share about the greatest story ever being told, which is the story of redemption found in this book. And I'm wondering if maybe you're a little bit like me, that we maybe have an idea of the gospel. And my prayer tonight is that the gospel will grip our hearts so much that it will just become a little bit more natural for us to share this good news. Because the gospel really is central to everything that we do. Like, when you fully come to this knowledge of what it really is, it changes things. It changes you. It changes your viewpoint. It changes your worldview. It changes just everything. And so that's kind of where I want us to launch from, is this idea that we're naturally good at sharing good news, but yet sometimes we're not as good about sharing the good news. And so I guess I like things to be a little bit interactive. So how would you define the Bible? So you guys can kind of blurt out some answers. Like, if you were going to define the Bible in simplest terms for like 6th grade Jim Bob, how would you define the Bible? Like, what would be something you would define the Bible? And if you, please don't say, well, it's the Bible. Like, yes, I understand. Like, don't use the word to define the word. Like, that's, like, how would you define it? Like, what would be your simplest definition of the Bible? Please don't all go at once. It's overwhelming. Yes, Nicole. The history and story leading up to Jesus. Good. Yeah. The living word of Christ. Good. Yeah. The truth. Good answer. Yeah. All great answers. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Yes. God's guide for our life. I heard somebody say, like, basic instructions before leaving Earth. I was like, using an acronym. I'm like, okay. Anybody else? That spells the Bible, in case you're wondering. Yeah, catch everyone up together on the same speed. Anybody else? All right. This is my thought of kind of that is like how I would define the Bible is basically it's God's story of and in that redeeming mankind. And so it's all a bunch of stories of God, like all pointing to God and Him redeeming mankind. Next question. How would you define the gospel? Wow. Jesus dying on the cross. That's good. Colton added that he came back to life 3 days later. I think that was implied, right? I'm assuming, Heidi, you've heard that part of the story. Spoiler! Wait, that's in the Passion? What? In the back. God's gift. It's good. God's representation of what real sacrificial love means. Good. Yeah. Yes. The way to live now. Good. Yeah, all these are great. So growing up, I grew up in church. Anybody else, you like grew up in church like the whole time? Nice. Anybody you like, this whole church thing is kind of new to you? You're like, yeah, you got it. Cool. So my parents were pastors. My grandma was a pastor, which is kind of like crazy. And so I grew up in church. Anytime there was a service, we did church. I was just never not at church, kind of a thing. And I remember growing up, like I've been to enough youth services and things like you just kind of hear like, you should do this or you shouldn't do this, like right, like you shouldn't sleep with your boyfriend or girlfriend, like that was, like, or like this kind of like you should or you shouldn't, And those are good practical principles. Like, you shouldn't kill people. That's a good thing, like, to not kill people. I'm glad I added that to not. Right? But, and then on the flip side is, like, you can beat lust, or you can, like, you don't have to be the person of gospel, and you can beat that, like, gossip, right? You don't have to be that person. And I kind of looked at this, and there's like kind of like this moralism. You shouldn't do this. And this motivationalism of you can do this. So you shouldn't XYZ sin, and you can beat XYZ sin. And I guess as I've learned, it's kind of like, well, is that, in and of themselves, are not bad, but I guess, how do those, in your opinion, how do those not measure up to the gospel? Moralism and motivationalism. Like, where do they fall short? Like, you can't do it on your own, exactly. Yeah, like, anybody, you, like, trying to beat a sin, right? And you're just like, all right, well, today's the day I'm going to beat it. And then later that day, you're like, well, tomorrow I'm going to beat it, right? In and of ourselves, we can't do it. And the problem is that if we base our gospel on our performance, it's a slippery slope, folks. Because you and I, we don't got it. As much as we would like to have it, like, we don't. And the good news of the gospel is everything we just talked about. That there was somebody who came on our behalf to beat sin and death and hell and the grave on our behalf. And that's the good news of the gospel. Because the gospel doesn't preach that. It preaches that, yeah, you should do this, but you can't. But there's somebody who did. And that's Jesus. And so we're going to look a little bit, because what I love is that you find Jesus in the New Testament, and that's where the gospel, I think, is most clearly and easily found. But I think you can actually find the gospel in the Old Testament as well, and we're going to look at that a little bit. And then we're going to look at a guy named Barabbas in the New Testament, and then we're going to get an opportunity to just let the gospel grip our hearts again. And we're just going to create space at the end where, God, would you come, and Lord, if there's anything in me, would you get rid of it? That's not you. Because the gospel really is all about Jesus and not about our performance record, but about his. And so, found in Luke chapter 24, verse 27, it says this: Then Jesus took them, this is his disciples, through the writings of Moses and all the prophets, explaining from all the scriptures in things concerning himself. And so, I need some help from somebody who has some good penmanship. And so, does somebody want to volunteer who can write well? You got to write really well. You can write really well? All right. So, come on up. And we're going to look at Genesis 1:1. Anybody know Genesis 1:1 from, like, you know it from without looking at your phone and or? In the beginning, you're going to write, actually, that word in the beginning is a Hebrew word, okay? And so you're going to write, so that Hebrew word, I'm not a Hebrew scholar, but in the beginning is actually one word in Hebrew. And in that word, the letters actually represent things in Hebrew. So the bet and the resh, so means son of. So I want you to write the word son of. And then the next letter in that, the bet and the resh, the next letter would be an alf. And because I didn't have a lot of time, I don't have all this on the screen, so I apologize. So then we have son of. And then Keegan, could you hold this for me? And then Colton, you're going to come up and hold the next one. Because I know them, I'm going to pick on them. And so that's how that's going to work. So I need you to write God, all right?
God?
The son of God, G-O-D.
Oh, God.
God, yep. And then, Colton, you're going to hold this one for me. And then, I need your help. And it will be destroyed. And that, to destroy, is the letter shin in Hebrew, which I took Greek in college, so I can't really, so I can't really even tell you what that letter fully looks like, but, and then the next letter would be a yod. If it's not, we forgive you. Destroy. Yeah, you did right, sorry. I don't know why I was, okay. And then by his own hand, yod means by his own hand or effort, in case you're wondering. And then the last letter would represent. So would you be willing to be my? Nope. And then the last one is on the cross. Do you want to, this is right on the cross. Yeah. So, I don't know if you can, we're going to look at this together. So the first letter, which is a tav, literally in the first word of our Bible, in the beginning. This is what the letters in Hebrew say to us, is that the Son of God will be destroyed by his own hand. Oh, you're doing awesome. On the cross. So the gospel message is being declared in the very first word in our Bible. So I always wonder if this is what maybe what Jesus was doing, was like, hey, you know that whole in the beginning word, like it points to me. It points to me because I'm going to do this for you. So maybe it's a coincidence. You think? It could have been a coincidence. Like, do you think you guys are actually going to? You want to just sit right on the front row because we're going to need you in like 30 seconds again. So there's I'm going to need you again, Alana. We're not done. We're just getting started, folks. We got 6 more hours. We're just going to have a blast tonight. So I'm going to read you something found in Genesis chapter 5. It's literally, in my opinion, one of the most boring chapters in the Bible, and so. Buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to have some fun. Ready? And so, it just talks about the descendants of Adam. So good. Just let this just flow over you like a gentle rain. When Adam was 130 years old, he became the father of a son who was just like him. It's boring. We're going to go on to verse 6. And he had a son named Seth, and it talks about him, and then it goes to Enosh. And Enosh goes to Kenan, Kenan. It's not quite Kenan. What is that word? Anyway. Mahalalel. And then Mahalalel had a son named Jared. Jared had a son named Enoch. Enoch had a son named Methuselah. Methuselah had a son named Lamech. And Lamech had a son named Noah. Wow, doesn't that just get you going? Like, thank you, Jesus, for putting that in the Bible. So what we're going to do is that each of those names is in Hebrew has a definition for another one. So we're going to look at another one. So Adam, his name means man. Okay? So that's what Adam means. So I need Colton. You're so good looking. That beard is ferocious. It's amazing. Thank you. And now I'm going to add a verb because there isn't a verb in this one, but it means appointed. But I'm going to add is appointed, okay? So the word is will be in parentheses, but then appointed. So Seth means appointed. So Adam means man. Seth means appointed, all right? And so, Keegan? Yeah. You're doing great. Mortal. Enosh means mortal. Okay? M-O-R-T. You got it. Thank you for stepping up. The next one is sorrow. And if you could you add the word but in parentheses so that way people know that S is right there. You're good. So, Kenan means sorrow. Yeah, isn't that terrible? Mahalalel, isn't that a fun one to say? Mahalalel. Mahalalel means the blessed God. We do. We're going to need some more volunteers because this one's a little bit more crazy. Lamech, where the blessed God, Jared means shall come down. That's almost like James. It has a J-A. And an E in it. It's like the same thing. You're like twinning. Shall come down. Enoch means teaching. Can we get... I need another... Matthew, can we use you? It's a nice top knot, by the way. Where are we at? Are we on teaching? Now we're on Methuselah. That's a cool name. Has an M. Yeah. Any other letters that match? A and T, H. Yeah. Yeah, we're almost there. So Methuselah means his death shall bring. Isn't that kind of a... Imagine naming your child, hey, his death shall bring. That's what you look like to me. Seems a little bit ridiculous. Then there's Lamech. Thank you, Emily. And Lamech means the despairing. Not kind of terrible. And we're almost done. We're on... And then I'll let you three decide. You can rock, paper, scissors, or if you... CJ's just like, nope, I'm just going to do it. And you get the good one, rest or comfort, which one do you want to be, rest or comfort? Rest, perfect. It's actually shorter too, and I appreciate that. All right, so remember, each of these this is about 1,400 years, I think. I can't remember exactly how many years this is between all of the different generations. This is basically, Adam had a son, he named him Seth. Seth named him Enosh, named his son Kenan, named him son, thousands of years later. And their names literally mean, man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down teaching that his death shall bring the despairing rest. I'm going to read that again because that's pretty good. So, man is appointed mortal sorrow, but the blessed God shall come down teaching that his death shall bring the despairing rest. Do you think there's a coincidence in this? Do you think that maybe God was moving on the hearts of these fathers to name their sons these things, even though that literally one of them was sorrow? Sorrow. But he wanted to point out throughout this legacy that there was something that was coming that was going to change everything. And that is the good news. Thank you, guys. Now, we're done with these papers, and so we're... All right, you want to keep them? No. Okay, you can. Now you are. Yeah, you wallpaper your house with these things. And I just don't think there's an accident in this. I just don't believe... I mean, that's just two examples found in the book of Genesis. We have, there's 27 books in the New Testament, 33 in the Old. We have 32 other books that we could look at. I'm not that smart, so I don't have that many other examples that we're going to go to. But I believe God is trying to point, like, wait, no. Everything hinges around my son. Everything hinges around what my son did and is going to do on the cross. And anybody ever hear the story of David and Goliath? It's found in 1 Samuel chapter 17. And basically there's three main players in the story. There's the army of Israel. Then you've got Goliath, and Goliath is this giant, a lot like me. That was a pretty terrible joke, I know. But giant, the Goliath is about 8 feet tall, something like that. That talks about how much is it? Like I said, 9 feet, 9 inches. He's taller than me, basically. It says that his spear or javelin weighs as much as a weaver's rod. I don't know what that means, a weaver's rod, but it's like unbelievably heavy. 15 pounds. Thank you. What Bible are you reading from? I need that. Anyway, yeah, facts. Maybe I should look at them up. But essentially, right, so this giant is unbelievably huge. And in that culture, in order to not have this massive slaughter happen between the two armies, they were going to do man-to-man combat. So it would kind of be like me and Colton fighting. It would be cute, like I would not win this war, right? The people of Israel would lose. And what happens, right? David picks up 5 rocks, has a sling, throws the rock, hits Goliath right in the middle of the forehead. He dies, right? Amazing story. So many of you know this story and Matthew, as you knows the story way better than I do. And so, it's a cute story. And growing up, I've always been taught, Kyle, you need to be a David in your generation. You need to be a David in your generation. You need to slay the giants in your generation, right? And these are some great thoughts in and of themselves, right? We should be doing something about sex trafficking and try to end that. We should be doing things to end, the world hunger issue and the clean water issue. These are things that I think are terrible that need to end. But it kind of goes back to that moralism and motivationalism. Wait. Kyle, I will never be a David that slays giants. Because I'm not the sovereign warrior king. There's somebody already in that place. And his name is Jesus. You see, so often I want to be the David in this story. But in reality, I'm the Israelite army needing someone else to come out and fight my battle for me because I cannot win this war. That I need a David. And the great thing about this is that it's just a foreshadowing of a greater David coming. And his name is Jesus. And I just love how this Bible always points to one incredible person, and he's more than just a person. He's our God. He's Jesus. And it's so encouraging to me that I don't have to have it in myself, that I don't have to be the strong one, that I don't have to have the world revolve around me. There's somebody who already did, and his name is Jesus. I want to give you one last example of the gospel. It's found in Mark chapter 15. And his name is Barabbas. Everyone say Barabbas. Barabbas means that his name means that he's the son of a father. That's what his name means, Barabbas, son of a father. And starting in verse 6, it says this. Mark 15:6, and we're going to read through 15. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner. One of the prisoners at that time was Barabbas, a revolutionary who had committed murder in an uprising. The crowd went to Pilate and asked him to release a prisoner as usual. "Would you like me to release to you this king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. For he realized by now that the leading priests had arrested Jesus out of envy. But at this point, the leading priest stirred up the crowd to demand the release of Barabbas instead of Jesus. Pilate asked them, "Then what should I do with this man you call the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Crucify him." "Why?" Pilate demanded. "What crime has he committed?" But the mob roared even louder, "Crucify him!" So to pacify the crowd, Pilate released Barabbas to them. He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. This is getting into Good Friday. You'd be like, "Kyle, this would be a Good Friday message." It would be a great Good Friday message, but I just feel like it's such a good point of the gospel that I just want to go there. So, Mark calls Barabbas a murderer, and John calls him a robber. And there's this audacious stage that's happening, and you've got Perfection personified in Jesus, and you've got a thug in Barabbas. And so often we can kind of read the Bible, and when I look at this story, and when I really start to think of it, I'm the Barabbas in this story. That you might be the Barabbas in this story. And you'd be like, Kyle, I've never murdered somebody. I bet you have and you didn't realize it. You see, anger, Jesus points out that if you've ever been angry at somebody, you've committed murder in your heart. You'd be like, okay, so let's pretend like you've never been angry at somebody. I'll go there with you. Have you ever talked bad about somebody? Ever? You know what you've just done? You've murdered someone's reputation. You're a murderer. And I'm in the same boat. I'm guilty. I would like to say that I've never talked badly behind someone's back, but I have. And you may say, well, Kyle, okay, I'll give you that. I've talked bad about someone behind their back, but I've never stolen anything. But Jesus brought up something about, have you ever coveted? Have you ever wanted something so badly that someone else had it? Guilty, right? That's me. Have you ever lusted after somebody or something? In your heart, you've already committed that. And see what the gospel does is it helps me to realize in and of myself, my works, my righteousness is like a filthy rags. That I need Jesus so badly. And I need him more today than when I first gave my heart to Christ. That when I examine my motives, when I examine who I really am inside, I need this gospel more today than yesterday. And I'm wondering if you might be like me, where you'd say, Kyle, I need the gospel today and tonight. Because when I examine my own heart tonight, I realize I'm not measuring up. That I haven't somehow graduated grace. I haven't somehow gotten enough knowledge about the gospel that this is somehow kid stuff. No, this is essential to every part of my being, and that if this doesn't permeate me, my being, then I've missed it. Because this should be the thing that gets us excited. The fact that I was once lost, but now I'm found. And the cool thing about this story is that Barabbas was unbelievably guilty. It wasn't that he was kind of guilty. No, he was completely guilty. And I don't think the crowd is what released Barabbas that day. I think it was Jesus. I think Jesus let Barabbas go free that day because that's what our Jesus does, is that in and through him we experience freedom. And we don't have a record to know if Barabbas ever fully reconciled his life with God. We don't know. But that's the free gift and the good news of the gospel, is that it's an invitation today. And I want to end with a story. There was this dad who had a son. It kind of makes sense because if he's a dad, he usually has a child of some sort, right? And he loved this son, and there was an artist. They went on this vacation. There was an artist, not a very good artist, but an artist. And so this artist painted a picture of his son and gave it to the dad. And, and because the dad loved the son, the dad loved the painting, right? They just go hand in hand. Well, the son grew up, and the son went off to war. Side note, this dad was unbelievably wealthy and loved art, hence had a painting of his son. This dad had many famous artists like Salvador Dali. He had like a Picasso. He had name an artist, he had one. And so fast forward, his son goes off to war, and because it's wartime, The son dies in a battle. The dad is devastated, right? A few years go by. The dad passes away. And this dad has massed tons and tons and tons of art. And so it's kind of a cool, so all of these art connoisseurs come because they're going to auction off all of the art, and everyone wants his collection. So the auctioneer's up there, and he's, calling everything to order, and now there's all these famous paintings everywhere. And then the auctioneer says, hey, according to the wishes of the dad, if you want we have to sell one painting first, and then we can move on with the auction. But we have to sell this one first, and it was the picture of the son. And so so according to the dad's wishes, this one has to go first. And so people are kind of murmuring and talking like, we want the real stuff. We don't want this crap. Somebody starts yelling at the auctioneer, let's get to the good stuff. We don't want this. Get me the real stuff. This is garbage. And so the auctioneer's like, no, we can't. We got to sell this first. This has to be sold first. So they start out at $1,000. Nobody wants it. They go down to $100. Nobody wants it. $75. Nobody wants it. All right, and the auctioneer's like, we got to sell this first. It goes down to $50. Finally, the butler at the home was like, I'll give you $50 for the painting. And the auctioneer's like, all right, anybody else? Going once. Anybody else? $51. Silent. Going twice. I did 51. Do I hear 50? It's sold for $50. This auction is now closed. Everyone's mad. Like, what do you mean it's closed? And the auctioneer explained, what you didn't realize is that when you get the son, you get everything. That butler that day got every painting in the house. And when we get Jesus, we get everything. We get the Father. We get peace. We get hope. We get joy. We get it all. Not because of who we are, but because of what he did. See, the gospel, I think it demands something from us tonight. Will you examine your heart tonight? And will you allow the gospel to check your motives, to check your heart? Because it's not about performance. You can perform right and be so far from God. The gospel demands something so much more. His death on the cross demands something so much more. And so I'm going to challenge you. As the lights are going to go down dim, I want you to ask God, has the gospel really done its work in my heart? Because I believe once you've had an encounter with the gospel and with Jesus, it changes things. And if you can't pinpoint that moment, I don't know if you've had one. And I'm not saying it's about a feeling. It's more than a feeling. It's not about that. It's about an experience. And so what we're going to do is we're going to turn, the lights will go down low. I want to challenge you, get away, and the tech team will they'll put on a worship song. Or the band will go up, like I said. And the band's going to play softly, and while they do, would you kind of spread out all over this place and say, God, would you examine me? And anything that doesn't line up, God, I want to make it right. I need you tonight. And so the lights are going to be low, the team's going to be playing. Would you just ask God, I need your gospel to permeate my life. I need to look like you. And that only happens through the work of the gospel in my life. So the lights will be low. Now I'm going to challenge you, would you stand with me? And would you go to anywhere you want in this room? And would you just seek God? And then in just a moment, the team will be playing in just a few minutes.